I went back to America. I started this social enterprise called Animals for Africa, and we raised money for the village, making stuffed animals for the kids. And meanwhile, I also was teaching transformative art at a university, and I decided I would write a book about transformative art, sort of like a how to self help kind of book. But as the universe does, you set an intention and it's like, oh, you want to write a book about transformative art? Well, you better live it. Let's just change your whole life. Everything blew up. My program closed. My husband that I was married, he something melted down there that's in the book. And so I was like, okay.
Hey Robin, welcome to the Cosmic Artist podcast. It's so nice to have you here, and I'm so excited for the conversation we're about to have just based on the little bit that we talked before we started recording. But before we get into all of it, I would love if we can start by you introducing yourself and sharing some of your favorite things in the world.
Great. Well, my name is Robbyn Layne, and I live in Amsterdam, which is one of my favorite things because I'm from the US originally, but it's just very inspiring to be in a place that's beautiful. I love living in a beautiful place, and I live near a canal, on a canal, and that's one of the things that inspires me. The other thing that inspires me is my dog, Ziggy. Um, just like normal life, like the everydayness of life can be very inspiring. And when I feel like present enough to take that in, when I'm not stressed and like worried about things, like that is what inspires me. Is just being like grateful for who I am, where I'm at, and like the people and creatures in my life that I love.
I love that. Isn't that the whole thing of being an artist? Like, just the value of being able to be present and to notice the little things and the big things, but mostly the little things so that we're actually able to give a name, give a shape, give a form, and then actually create out of that. I think that's magic. Also, where in the States are you originally from, and how did you get to Amsterdam?
That is such a big story. I'm originally from Kansas City, so it's right in the middle, America's heartland. And it is really part of why I pursued art in the way I pursued art. I come from a very working class family, and uh, that's not to say there's not a lot of artists in Kansas City, but the way I grew up, it just seemed very impractical to pursue the arts. I was the first person in my family to go to college, and I studied journalism because it was somewhat creative. It was writing, but it wasn't necessarily, taking that big risk of going to art school or going to doing creative writing, that kind of thing. So I got into film production though while I was there, and that sort of opened my mind to like, oh, I can work with images and words, and it was creative, but it was practical. It was a career. It was actually kind of a glamorous career for someone um, in their 20s in Kansas. But I wanted to leave. I wanted to go to San Francisco and have a big adventure, and that was a big risk that I took because I left a pretty good career, a pretty good job, and just said, I'm going to follow my heart and soul and not do what's expected of me. So I went to San Francisco and, of course, had my mind blown open by like lots of people thinking very different ways and different things. And I joined a women's artist group. It was very synchronistic. I didn't identify with being an artist at all, even though I'd always felt like I was creative. But then I got invited to this women's artist group, and I'm not sure, maybe you've talked about it in your podcast or in your work, but The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron is a book that was very popular back then. But it's also had a resurgence, but it's a book about creative recovery, and it's about how you can use the arts to reconnect with yourself and also spirituality, which at that time I was, you know, kind of pushed away from the idea of traditional religion, and kind of maybe even rebelling against that. But when I learned that you could really re-embrace this idea of being grateful for this precious life and aware of all the magic in this world through this creative expression that just wants to come through you anyway, then that was really like gave me something back that I had lost, because it wasn't about being in a formal religion, but about having this experience for myself that was, yeah, just tuned in to that flow. So San Francisco was a big eye opener. I spent almost 20 years there, and then I moved to Amsterdam for love.
I love that. Where in San Francisco did you stay?
I lived all over the Bay Area. I was in the Haight-Ashbury district when I
I
first moved
love the
there. I was
hate.
in yeah, the hate, the love-hate.
Mhm.
And I lived in the Mission District for a while. I also lived in Oakland and Berkeley. So all over, when you're there that long, and also it's a crazy place to live with the housing and that kind of thing. But while I was there, I taught in a program. I mean, there was a lot of stories that happened, but one of the most influential things that happened after the Women's Artist Way group was I went to art school, and did experimental film, and that was like a big shift from being a film and video producer in a commercial way. It was more about exploring and experimenting. And I really got into like old vintage film and painting on the film. And I love the idea that it was something not in my control. You'd just scratch on these little tiny frames and then you'd re-photograph it. And then it'd be like, wow, this is amazing and magical and synchronistic. And it was really always about getting out of my own way and seeing what would come through. And if you just give yourself permission to sit down and get the ego turned off, that's saying, oh, you're not a real artist, which took a lot of work to get to, by the way, just to give myself permission to sit down to that. Then, yeah, I really started to build up the confidence and to understand it's not just about the art you make, it's about the way you learn to be with the unknown and let go of control and trust the process. Like these are big learning lessons for someone who came from being like a producer, which was all about like making sure things happened on time and having control of the schedule. So I think expressive art making is like really about learning how to be yourself in the world.
Yeah, and learning how to have a voice and present yourself with this voice without shying away from it. And I think that I feel, and you can share what you think as well, but I feel like it's so important to like it's important where we are in the world. I lived in San Francisco for about 8 to 10 months. And I lived in the Mission, and then I lived in Treasure Island, very random.
Wow.
But it was a beautiful experience living in San Francisco because I was just so surrounded by so much art. I went to college in Boston, and similar to you, like I went to a very artsy college, but I took the safest, like most business-ish course. I took marketing communications, but I went to a college known for like theater and film and all this magic. But my dad was like, no, you gotta be a businesswoman. So I was like, all right, I'm okay to be admit like in the presence of all these creative people, but then still take something businessy. And now I look back and I'm like, man, I should have just gone for it. I should have just done something crazy and something different. But I also feel like it's all our experiences that make us artists. Like maybe had we not gone through what we did go through, you being in Kansas, me living in the Philippines and then going to Boston and then going to San Francisco and coming back to the Philippines, like maybe we wouldn't have been the same type of artists. The things that we create wouldn't have been the same that come out of us. But what do you think about the importance of like being in a creative city or country? And how does that play into the art that we're able to create?
That's a really good question. I mean, I feel like we're constantly taking things in and putting things out. So, of course, our environment is going to influence that. And particularly like being around people who are creative and making things like, that's why people go to an art school. It's like you're being reflected, mirrored by the people around you. Sometimes that can work for you and sometimes that can work against you.
Mm.
Because it can feel paralyzing sometimes if you constantly compare yourself to other people, and then think, oh, well, I should be doing it like they're doing it. But at the same time, if you're around people who value creative expression, of course you're going to feel like, oh, yeah, this is my important thing to do today versus, I don't know, uh, clean the house. I mean, it's just like, it's what, like, and especially when we're younger, we're learning who we are and what's important to us. And so you have to push up against people, um, and be stretched by your environment. I am I'm okay with not being around constantly creative people all the time. Like, I don't necessarily have everyone in my friend group is creative, but I certainly would say that most of them are. And not so much around the ambition of being creative, like, oh, I'm driven to have my next exhibition. It's just got to happen. Like that energy actually for a while was a little bit off-putting for me, and for whatever reason, maybe I was too insecure, maybe it was, but you just have to learn to trust your own voice and your own rhythm, and really get quiet to that, and then see, okay, where am I called, where am I pulled, what's important, what's feeding me energetically. Is this place feeding me energetically, is it not? It's not necessarily, is it the coolest, most creative place on earth, but what does it feel like to me, and am I feeling inspired? And maybe inspired means, is it quiet enough for me to walk around and think about poetry and flowers, or is it the kind of place where it's like, oh, there's so much energy and I need this aliveness, and like, wow, look at what all these people are doing. That's feeding me right now. So it's not about like there's a formula. It's just, but I do think maybe my main lesson I've learned in my life is to get quiet to myself and listen to what is feeding me and what's not feeding me.
That's beautifully put. I love that because you're right. It could be that what we need is like the hustle and bustle of a city and everything going on, and that's what drives us. But it could be that we're driven by the silence. Like we're driven by the ability to hear our own thoughts. And I'm sure there are different types of creatives, those that thrive on like getting to hear other people's thoughts and getting to, like draw or paint or create based on what everyone else is doing. And then there are those that are more reflective, or maybe these are the same creatives but going through different phases, right? Because of course we
I
go through
think that's
phases in
it.
our
Yeah.
lives, and sometimes we need more interaction, and sometimes we just need more quiet. And none of it is wrong. All of it is great. And it's just based on what's needed in the moment. Would you be willing to share the love story and how you got to Amsterdam?
I would, but can we back up before I share the love story? Because I wanted to
Yes.
ask you a quick question
Yeah.
about, your experience when you were in Boston. Maybe not a question, just to talk about, when we're talking about what feeds us and what we need and where we're at in the phases. Sometimes we don't know what phase we're in, and we can really feel this, like, tension, like, "Gosh, I'm doing the wrong thing," or "It's not right," and, like, and it takes so much time, and then to be able to look back and go, "Oh, that was exactly the circumstances I needed to turn me in to the person I am today." So it's really about holding this intention and listening to yourself, because maybe this business and marketing will allow you to not only do your work as an artist, which you already are clearly, empowering other creative people. I mean, everybody's creative, like we talked about before we got on the camera. Everybody's creative, but when you really have that urge and that desire to express yourself, there's something there. We need people that will help us bring that out, and people who have those kind of skills. Not so much that they enable us and then we don't get to do our own thing as well, but like somehow in that struggle of learning, how can I do this in a way that is practical and creative and expressive, it's like a butterfly coming out of the chrysalis. You need that struggle to be able to have the strength to fly when you come out, because if somebody just opens that up for you, butterflies, they'll die if they don't have the struggle. So I really have learned to appreciate that I don't have like a big trust fund and I can just like go off and make my own ideas, because I don't even know what I would have ideas about if I didn't have some struggle to explore. And I guess that does go back to the love story. It's a kind of a long one. I don't want to take up the whole time with you, but it's all connected to creativity. It's all connected to following my heart and soul, not just for love, although I think of love and creative expression as being connected. That's why I call my company Kissing the Muse. It's this idea of this intimate connection with your authentic self, like the most true parts. And love is a moment like that, and a kiss is a moment like that. So it's like, what is that time when you're just like really tuned in? And I went on when I was teaching transformative art in Berkeley, California, and there was a writer's program going to Malawi, Africa. And I really wanted to go. It sounded amazing. But it was also kind of expensive. and I struggled to like come to terms with whether I would let myself go or not because I was married at the time to someone who was also in grad school, and it was like, should I be spending this money to go on this trip? But I just said, yeah, why not? I'm going to do it. I'm going to use my student loan and go. And, sometimes those crazy things that don't make sense make the most sense because while I was there, even though I was there to be a writer, I took a bunch of like art supplies and stuff. And I started connecting with some of the people in Malawi, some of the women in the villages and the kids that were orphaned because of, their parents dying of AIDS and that kind of thing. It was really intense. I'm kind of glazing over it quickly, but I had never had an experience of quite so much reality in my face, like how hard it was for other people and how much privilege I had. And I learned we were in Tacumbo village and like, we were being toured around. And of course, they were trying to get us to give money because they needed it desperately. And they were like, well, some of these people live off the equivalent of like $2 a year for the whole year. Like that's what a family might have. And I was like, and it really got in my heart and soul and was like churning around in my mind. And I kept thinking, well, I do believe in the power of transformative art. I believe that art can change things without having this whole, and it was very idealistic. But while we were there, I had all this fabric and art supplies, and I just decided to make a little stuffed animal for this little girl named Whitty who was orphaned. And it just genuinely came from an impulse, like just a desire to feel connected. And like, maybe I saw something in her that I, identified with this feeling of being abandoned or something, or, I just felt for her and I wanted to connect. So I made her a little stuffed animal, really, ratty, like just hand sewn. But I sewed her name into it with embroidery. And I, just because I thought she needs to be seen, like she needs to know somebody sees her. And well, the women I was traveling with in the writing group were like, "Oh, that's so cool. I want to make one." And we all started making like animals for the kids in this village. And so a little idea was born. I went back to America. I started this social enterprise called Animals for Africa, and we raised money for the village making stuffed animals for the kids. And meanwhile, I also was teaching transformative art at a university, and I decided I would write a book about transformative art, sort of like a how-to self-help kind of book. But as the universe does, you set an intention and it's like, oh, you want to write a book about transformative art? Well, you better live it. Let's just change your whole life. Everything blew up. My program closed. My husband that I was married, he something melted down there that's in the book. And so I was like, okay, throw everything up in the air. I had to go back to Africa for the project because we had all made all these animals. We were going back to Malawi plus to Uganda to deliver, and I'd made all these connections. So it was a year later to deliver all these stuffed animals, and it was amazing, intense, like month-long journey, way more intentional about doing this project, and overwhelming, but also wonderful and yeah, transformative for me. And by the end of it, I was like really like, frazzled because we did probably 100 workshops in like a week, and we are traveling all over. And so my friend that I was traveling with booked us a backpacker safari. And on that backpacker safari, I met this really charming British doctor. And that's part of the love story. So we fell in love. I went to London. I couldn't get a visa. That's more story. So eventually I came to Amsterdam, and he could travel over here and visit me. And now he lives in Amsterdam with me.
I love that. And I love that that took us to the part of Africa and creating these stuffed animals for the kids. And wow, it just sounds like you've lived so many lives, and I'm so happy that we get to talk about the lives that you've lived, and I'm happy to just share space and listen to all these stories that you have because I think the more we do in our lives, like the more we have to share, the more we share, the more we inspire. So as you're talking, I'm feeling so inspired and I'm reminded
Good.
about how important it is to take those chances, how important it is to take those little leaps that feel little in the moment, but actually, in hindsight, they aren't little at all because they're what make
Mm-mm.
all the difference. And I think that's part of being an artist. It's taking the chances. It's doing the things that feel like they're impossible. fine, I don't have that much money to make this happen right now, but maybe I can take out a little and I'm sure the universe will pay me back for it later because it's what is money at the end of the day other than just an exchange, right?
It's
It's
an exchange, sacred
we're just
exchange,
giving
yes.
money to be able to experience this experience. And at the end of the day, if we have the money or have even a bit of the money, like what's the point in keeping it and then not getting to do these experiences? Because the experiences are what allow us to create even more, to share even more, and to connect even more.
Absolutely. It's so, you know, and that's such a part of the learning as well. I mean, I'm clearly a little bit older than you. And so I have had some more stories, but I know that when I was in my 20s, even going to San Francisco from Kansas was like, this is insane. This doesn't make any sense, you know. But in the long run, like that's how a life is made. You just have to trust something. I mean, I also now I'm older and I have some friends who I used to look up to that were really wild travelers who never grounded down. And I can say that I wanna be a little bit more grounded than that, you know, I don't wanna, like, not have some roots, but there's times and phases, like you said, it's a really good word because thinking that who we are now is who we're gonna be in 5 years, 10 years, it's just not true, like, there's a core that's always there, and, like, that's the part we have to stay connected to, but just to trust, like, we keep evolving, you know, throughout our lifetime. We keep changing. And the most important thing is to stay clear about your intentions and like your heart and like being like, I love that you call yourself the hardest because yeah, that's at the end, that's all it's about is like, did you live well? Did you love well? And I think that art making is a path to that, not an end. Of course, I identify as being an artist, a creative person because I wanna create my life. I wanna be the one who is, yeah, actively co-creating it with the universe. I mean, obviously, I don't have control over everything that's gonna happen, but I have control over how I respond and who I connect with and how I live and hopefully inspire other people. Like, it's really great that we met, you know, through the work you're doing. So, yeah, that's it.
Yes, 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 yes to all of it. And I think it's so important, I think, to identify as a creative, no matter whether or not we are actually working in the arts. Because when we identify as a creative, then we take back the power of creating our own lives. Otherwise, it's so easy to kind of just be like, oh, life is happening to me and I don't have control. And yes, maybe we don't have control, but at least putting in like certain steps and creating little things, whether it's in our journal, whether it's like a little doodle, that still shows us like, wait, we are creative. I'm able to draw on this paper, which means I'm able to create my life. I'm able to create my days. And yes, it's not completely me. It is a co-creation, like whatever we want to call it, God, universe, inspiration, creativity, whatever it is. It gives us so much more power to think, oh, we're co-creators rather than to think, oh, life is happening to me.
To me, yeah. And also what I really learned, back when I was in the women's group, you know, the Artist Way group, um, that the creativity is a practice to stay present. You know, the ritual itself of sitting down to doodle or journal or, you know, I do a lot of collaging. Like that's part of my whole, like, you know, I do workshops just to make collages, not like as art collages, although some of the people that do them make really fantastic, beautiful things, but it's more, these are mirrors and it's just a moment. It's a practice to get quiet and see what wants to come up and then to remember who you are because, you know, the days go on, the weeks go on, things happen to us, and we're like, I don't know what this feels. I feel crazy, I feel angry, whatever. But then if you can come to a space and some people, you know, do that through prayer or some people do it through running and going to the gym. For me, it's like if I can get quiet with a group of women preferably or, you know, men too, but if we can sit around and like chat and like make some collages and talk about what's in our heart and soul, ooh, I just feel rejuvenated after that. And I also can look at what I made and go, oh, there's my truth. That's my truth. Like whatever I was
Yes.
mad about this was like really freaking me out. I was worried about this. But I mean, I have like over, you know, hundreds of these now. And it's like a visual diary. And it's like through that process, you just learn through that practice. of making and seeing yourself, you like learn to kind of let things go a little bit more easily because like, oh yeah, that's when that was happening. But look, here I am back again at like my set point. And yeah, as a practice, I think it's like a way we don't we have Instagram and we have all these like tools to like express ourselves visually, but it's still kind of got this external valuation around it. And I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's super fun and I value it and I love like getting that like, hey, that's cool, you know. But what I realize if I don't get and that I need is that time to really be with myself and know myself and really remember that this is what I love and value. And then I can be a better person when I show up in the world, you know, to my friends. And so it sounds like at first it's like, oh, you're so focused on yourself. And it's like all this navel gazing and like you're thinking about yourself. But no, it's not just thinking about it. It's like being with myself. It's like having a relationship with myself so that I am like, yeah, I'm full. I'm good. How are you? What do you need? What's happening in your world? You know, I don't need so much from you right now because I feel really taken care of and I can do that for myself. It's not to say that I don't need other people and need to be fed and valued. And I love it when people are like, yeah, that's so great. I love that. But I went through a long period of time where that was the most important thing. And that was stopping me from having a life that made me happy.
Mm. Yes, yes. And that's, I think, the con of something like Instagram. It's like constantly looking outward for that validation, for that thumbs up, for that, hey, that's great. But what about the things that we're creating that we're not sharing? I think there's so much more there. And I love what you said because this is something I believe in deeply as well. Gathering with women and creating, because as we're creating, we're sharing with each other, and as we're sharing with each other, we're sharing with ourselves, and it just feels so much more authentic to be sharing with women exactly what's going on with ourselves, especially when we're not able to communicate it to ourselves. Like when we're running from ourselves and we are in a group of women, it just automatically flows out because we're all mirrors. And then we get to create, and then we get to show each other and share what we've created. And then we get to see more of ourselves in that. I think nothing compares in the world. And also, I love those collages that you shared because I'm thinking about like vision boards. We think about
Yes.
creating vision boards once a year for like the new year, and this is, the vision that we're going for. But what if we started creating vision boards every month? What if we started creating like just more things to reflect ourselves artistically, more regularly? How different would we see ourselves then? And not for the sake of sharing it and not for the sake of putting it on Instagram or anywhere else, but just for the sake of getting to know, like, what am I actually going through right now that I can't put out in words?
Absolutely. That's exactly it, Karina. And one thing that's slightly different about I call these muse mirrors. Like I genuinely call them mirrors because it's about seeing yourself reflected back to yourself. And so the one thing that is kind of slightly different from a vision board when in this process that I do workshops and in fact I'm doing one in June, so it's online. So you're welcome to join. Um, but instead of thinking about what you're going to make and looking for the things you want to manifest, which I think is very powerful, and I do that as a practice, but this is a process for getting out of your way and you very rapidly find the images and you quickly put it together. I mean, like in an hour, but like it's about letting the muse speak through you and seeing what's in there. And sometimes you kind of know, but you know, sometimes we're so up here, like, oh, I want this, I want to make this happen, I got to do this. And that's, we need to do that, but we get that out of balance. And so this is this time to like play with your intuition and explore. And it's not really valued that much in our culture, like which I think is sort of because it's a masculine culture, not an anti-man, but like, and so what you were saying about women getting together, that's this softer, collaborative, exploratory, intuitive, and we're uncomfortable with that because it's the unknown, right? It's like, wow, I want to know what I'm doing. So we've forgotten to trust the process and to just allow things to unfold and to see what might happen because you know we can't control that. But when we get that's a muscle too. You can like build that up and learn to be comfortable with that. And this is a practice for doing that.
Beautiful. Okay, so how is Kissing the Muse born?
Hmm. I don't know why I started calling it Kissing the Muse, but it I think I wanted to capture the name of what I meant. I think it was around the intimacy, connecting with yourself. Also, when I was in my 20s, had a little bit of lots of crushes, lots of boy craziness. And I realized that I was always projecting onto those crushes. They were always artists, photographers, musicians. I was like, what is going on here? There's a pattern. I'm starting to see a pattern here. And so I realized through a lot of like exploration in Jungian psychology and the artist way group and like just doing therapy that I was projecting onto other people, like aspects of myself that I hadn't really embraced, that I hadn't fully claimed. And so instead of chasing the boys, it's like, I want to kiss my muse. I want to be connected to myself. So that was sort of where the concept came from. And I had been teaching in the transformative arts program, which was people who have the same sort of values, who like, I want to make art because I know I want to be the fullest human being I can be that's like connected. I want to do service in the world. I want to make art that heals. And I loved that program and it closed. The program closed. And so my idea is like, well, how do you take that out into the world? Maybe this is the time that we're scattering the seeds and we all have to go out and do our transformative work in the world. And I had been doing the Animals for Africa program, but because of the divorce and everything going crazy, it was like, I can't really hold that much in the world. So I just started traveling and making collages in cafes with like people that I would meet and hanging out. And that's how it sort of became born. I was calling it Kissing the Muse as a way to connect with other people and to stay connected with myself, to stay grounded because my life had definitely done a 180. Like it was very up in the air. And yeah, over time, I was also writing a book, which is coming out in October called Kissing the Muse, a memoir and creative guide. And yeah, I just used that as an umbrella for all my work as an artist because I found that I was a little bit too I wasn't even comfortable calling myself an intermediate artist. I was like, I just want to have an umbrella that holds the stuff that I care about. And it's Kissing the Muse. And it's a practice, it's a method. And I really struggled for a long time. Like, what is it even? It's like it's a practice it's a spiritual practice. It's a tangible mindfulness practice that's now a business.
How do you feel like it has evolved and changed from the time that you created it or the time that you started it?
I mean, I feel like it's evolved into something that I have a lot more confidence in saying this is what I do. It's not as private. It's evolved from my own personal mindfulness practice to something I can share with other people in a more formal way. I started a website and it was also um I started writing that book back, 12 years ago when everything blew up. And instead of just writing a self-help book about transformative art, I also learned I had to put my own story into it and and show up for other people in the same way I'm asking you to show up when you make your own art, to like really be vulnerable and naked there on the page. But you need a safe container to do that. And so what's evolved over time through doing the practice and sharing it with other people and continuing to write and continuing to like take it to the next level is I believe more than ever that it's important to trust yourself and to keep going and not to give up and to keep balancing it and to check back in. I think it will continue to evolve until the day I die. I think it's just a form that reflects the way I think about my life. And that's what artists do, I guess.
Yeah, and I find it to be such a beautiful name, Kissing the Muse, because it's it's not like chasing the muse. It's like kissing the muse, and that has a very different it has a very different ring to it. If you're just trying to constantly chase your muse, that means your muse is outside of you and you can never really get hold of it. Versus like when you're kissing the muse, it's like the muse is there. The muse is you. You are part of the muse and you're kissing it. And I think it's such a powerful thing that you brought in as well, how when you were boy crazy and you were projecting all of this to like onto all of these boys and then realizing, wait, it's not them I'm after, it's me I'm after, and I want that in myself, and that's why I like them. And I think this is a misconception that happens so often with so many young girls. It's like, oh, she's boy crazy. But what if instead of calling girls boy crazy, we ask them to look at like, but what are those things in all those boys? And then realize like, oh wait, it's not about the boys at all. These are traits that we need in our own selves, because this is what's making us alive. And for so long, like the life has been drawn out and dragged out of women. And it's finally time that women are like reclaiming our power, reclaiming our voices. And it's just great. It's like, what a beautiful world to be able to have this conversation with each other from across the world and to be able to share it with more people. Like, it's an incredible time to be an artist.
Absolutely, I agree. And I think it goes let's go back to the Instagram and what we're seeing in the world, because more than ever, we need these practices, and these communities that value, authenticity, because it really is easy. I mean, I've been doing this for years and I still get like spun out and, self-doubt. Like that's just very human. Like, what am I doing? I should be on Instagram even more. I should be doing this. I should be doing, like this voice that like this critic. And it's only through the practice that I get calm again and remember, like, wait a minute, why am I doing it? What is this about? Okay, first of all, yeah, it's a little bit about self-care, and then it's about other people and connecting. And then from there, it can also be like, wow, actually, we're empowering each other. We're talking to each other. We're connecting in a way that feels really authentic, and we're mirroring each other. So like when we come together, like when I do a workshop, everybody in the group, we listen to each other because it's like, oh yeah, I can relate to that. Or even when I can't, and if I feel like, whoa, what, then I can check my own judgments too. It's like, oh, what's going on with me? Why am I feeling so triggered by that? And also wanted to say it's not just like, boy craziness. It's like envy or inspiration. Like the whole world is a mirror and we're part of it. Like, so also remembering, like, what am I putting out there that's going to, and how's it going to impact other people? Am I inspiring? Am I, not that I'm trying to, it's like this weird balance. You don't want to get too far into thinking about what other people think of you, but at the same time, I want to have an intention. Yes, of course, I wanna take care of my own needs and my, financially security and all that, but, like, at the end of the day, I also really want that what I put in the world does something positive. It doesn't have to be a big positive, I don't need to go, like, save lives, but I want to not do harm and hopefully do good through just maybe even if it's, like, a few people going, like, "I feel better because I got inspired to make some art," and like, oh yeah, that I got through a problem that I wasn't thinking about in the same way. Now I'm thinking about it differently. So I'm sort of rambling now, Karina.
That's fine. It's really totally that. It's the little things. I think we put so much weight on ourselves to do something so big and make such a huge difference, but it's really not the big things that make a difference, because it's the big things that overwhelm us, but it's the little things that actually help us like go step by step. And that's what allows us to connect with more people. That's what allows us to see ourselves better. And that's what allows us to just be kinder in the world. So
Absolutely.
I want to ask you, what do you say to someone who has a very loud inner critic? Like they want to create, they know that they want to create something, they're not sure what they want to create, but their inner critic is like, oh, who do you think you are to create? What would you say to someone like that?
Well, one of my first things would be let's get to know your inner critic really well. Let's make a collage of your inner critic and let's give your inner critic a voice and let it talk. So let's take your inner critic out of your head and let's put it on a piece of paper and let's get to know it and let's be friends with it because it's probably got some messages for you. And also, you can't really heal it if you're battling it. So that was one of the first processes I ever did back in the artist group. I made this big old giant inner critic and it was ugly and it was scary. And I just used magazines and it was like, wow, okay, I see you, and like I could see the voices from my past and like the things that I didn't like about myself and the things I was like trying to push away. And it was like, as long as I was pushing them away and not looking at them, they were just still there and they were getting louder, or, and I wouldn't say that that inner critic is gone. It's definitely there. It's morphed. It has it has a different voice even now, but it also prompted me to do the big collage of what is my muse? Who is the me that wants to be the creative? Who is the me that like what does she look like? And weirdly enough, the critic was a man and the muse was a woman, but they can be, whatever. They could be animals. It doesn't matter. It's more important to just like let yourself have the space to look at it and like to stop doing the internal battle and to actually recognize that we're all human, we're all messy, we're all imperfect. I think that when we don't give the space to get to know that inner critic, it comes out anyway, and it comes out in harmful ways. It comes out in ways that are self sabotaging, and at worst, like sabotaging to other people. If we're not aware, we're unconsciously projecting that stuff onto other people, and then we make choices, we take actions that are harmful, even if they're small things, like even if it's just like not bothering to get out of bed because it's just like why bother, it doesn't matter, I'm nobody, and then that voice gets louder and louder because then of course you fuel it with taking actions that support that view. But I don't think you ever get to that if you don't give it a little space to breathe and look at it, and then you can be kind. So that's the first thing I would say to someone. And then yeah, it's going to be a long journey, but you're going to, and that critic's always going to be with you. You don't kill it. You have to get to know it.
Yeah, because I feel like no matter the age, no matter the experience, there's always going to be a voice, like whether or not we call it the inner critic, there's always going to be this voice that's doubting. And something that I like to say that I heard a long time ago is a shadow is only a shadow because the light hasn't been turned on. And once we turn on the
Hmm.
light, it's not a shadow anymore. And so, what you're saying is like, just give it a voice, give it a light, like allow it to be seen and to be heard. And when it's seen and heard, sure, it doesn't dissipate, it doesn't disappear, but it finally feels heard. And then it's no longer a voice that's like pestering us. It's a voice that's kind of showing us, hey, this is what I'm afraid of. And this is why
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. And then we realize, like, oh, it's maybe just a little version of us that didn't get to do something in the past, and or that was told off, or like something like that. And then noticing it, it's like, wait, no, it's okay. It's okay now. Like, I understand that that's why you don't want to do it. But also, let me show you why. Like, the muse comes in and is like, let me show you why it's a good idea to do it. Let me show you why it might actually help not only you, but more people in the world. And that is why we need to face our inner critic, because there's so much more that can come out of our art and our lives and our stories, rather than, oh my God, I don't want to share because what are they going to think?
Absolutely. And you said something really important there with getting to know it. It's it actually can make your art better because it should be informed by your vulnerability, your darkness, your fears, and the shadow. There's some good work you can do around shadow as well. I got into like Shadow Dance is a book that I read when I was in my 20s, that and making work that allows you to see that darkness is a way to heal that darkness. Yeah, it's just I don't wanna, I mean, I feel like my collages are pretty light and playful, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes they really are dark, and it's like that feeling, those angry feelings, those so-called negative feelings are also legit. Like, they deserve space, but how we process those, wow, it's so much different to, like, sit down and, like, do a fast scribble or make a really scary painting than it is to go out and yell at your best friend.
Yes, and it's going to come out, like you said, like it's going to come out some way or the other. So it's so much more, I want to say, conducive to ourselves and to our environment to create the space for ourselves to do it with ourselves rather than subject anyone else to emotions that we just haven't been able to deal with our own selves, and so it's just spewing everywhere. I mean, we have enough of that in the world. We have enough of
Yes.
like emotions spewing around everywhere. So as artists, as creatives, as people that know that we're co-creators of our own lives, like it's actually a gift, isn't it? To create this space for ourselves to be like, yes, I can create space for myself when I'm feeling good, but I can also create space for myself when I'm feeling like shit. And it doesn't have
Yeah.
to be like, it doesn't have to be projected to anyone else. It can just be me and me. And I can see myself in it. Like, I find that something that really helps me, for example, when I'm really angry, is journaling. Like, it's so much easier to write it in my journal than to get all those horrible words out, because once words are out, they can never be taken back.
Hmm.
So, art, it's transformative. Tell me about your deck.
Oh yeah. Okay. This is the Messy Magical Muse. It's a card deck. It's inspired by tarot and oracle decks, but it's different because it's not about predicting your future. It's about creating your future. It's everything we've been talking about. You know, it follows the heroine's journey, but I've
Love.
rebranded that as the Messy Magical Creative Adventure. And so there's 12 phases, and there's a muse that represents each phase. And it's sort of like, think about, you know, how the moon moves through phases.
Yeah.
So you're always the whole person, but you can look at it from different angles, and that's what the cards are about. Um there's 12 phases, but there's 13 muses because there's a reset muse, but they're really beautiful. Now, I did not make the illustrations. I was on a holiday in Spain in Figliana, and I was having this like kind of heavy morning. I wandered into this shop like just randomly. I'm like, oh, this artwork is amazing, this really cool little Spanish shop. And my partner bought me one of the paintings in there, and I came home and I kept looking at it and looking at it. I'm like, this is the one. I need to collaborate with her. So talk about like gratitude for technology. She speaks Spanish, I don't. I contacted her through I think it was through Instagram. I found her, but she wasn't even on like posting as an artist a lot. And I just started a collaboration with her, and she did all the illustrations. Her name's Raquel Nagora, and she is amazing. And so we just created this deck. I have a friend here who did the design and made the box. And so, in addition to the muses, there's prompt cards. There's a suite of 4 different prompts. So these are flirt with words. So it's like writing prompts. And each of the cards correlates to the muse. So, like, how about if we just do one? It's easier if I have
Yeah,
you draw a card, and
sure,
we'll do it by you saying now. I'll do this
sure.
and you say now, whenever you're ready. Just kind of wait.
Okay.
But before you start, kind of center into yourself. Ask a question about like something that's really in your heart, in your soul right now, that you'd like some clarity. And when you feel ready, just say when, and I'll pull a card.
Now.
All right, you got the Cosmic Comeback Muse. So you need to infuse the mundane with your magic, which is what I think you're already doing, to be honest. But so this phase of your creative adventure is a reverse echo of the call. Instead of being pulled to explore new worlds, you're pushed now to return. The Cosmic Comeback Muse is an energizing force that propels your journey home. It's time to make decisions that will shape your life again. You dove deep beneath your ego's surface to confront the monsters down below, and now you must safely ascend to the surface where duality still reigns. You've changed, but you're still learning how to be this new version of yourself, and the pressure of old patterns exerts an opposing force. Your cosmic comeback muse fuels your determination and powers your reentry while keeping you in balance. Kiss this muse to infuse the mundane with your magic and integrate your spiritual insights into a tangible new reality. So she's your muse that you would work with. And then the idea is that you would make a muse mirror collage inspired by that muse. And then that's the kiss and tell ritual. So, and then it has like prompts, writing prompts that you would look at your muse mirror and answer the prompts, and then you get some insights from there. And then you could take it further and do a writing flirt with words, or you could do a muse date where you go and have like an experience, or you do a mixed media tickle and you just make something that's exploring different, maybe paint or clay. But the idea is, like, you're not making art with a capital A. You're doing this as a practice to know yourself, to be connected to yourself, and to work through the phases. So you could do it like we did, where you just pull the random card, and that is insight enough. And like, where are you in your journey today? You know, you could do one every day, and it could be different. It doesn't necessarily have to follow the cycle in order, because we're constantly doing that, right? Like we're in and out and where we're at, but it can just help give us some structure to how you're thinking about your process.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Thank you for pulling that card for me. And I
Yeah,
think it's so beautiful to have decks like this that just bring us back to our own creativity, because often it gets overwhelming with all of these options and all of these choices. And should I paint? Should I draw? Okay, I'm going to do nothing because I don't know what to do. So it's so beautiful to have a deck to pull from and be like, oh, wait, this feels aligned. And it's
yes,
just this idea that we're like, yes, we're co-creators, but we're still able to surrender. And it's in the surrender that we're able to get a better message, that rather than when we're like pushing and being like, no, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. Because when
yeah,
we're pushing, we don't end up doing anything. Versus when we're open
yeah,
to receive, then it's like, oh, actually, that was pretty simple.
yeah. Well, also, like you said, Karina, too, the deck is it's great for like your personal practice, but my hope is that women will start like a book club, like an art club, because I was so inspired by that women's group that I joined in San Francisco. The idea that like if you can just get together with one friend and go like, hey, tonight we're gonna have like our muse night. Let's make some collages.
Yeah,
Great. And like it's gonna
yeah.
be fun, it's gonna be connecting, but it's also self-reflective. So that's my goal.
Where can anyone that's listening find the deck?
Kissingthemuse.com. You can order it from my website right now. It's not on Amazon yet. It's on my website.
Do you ship internationally?
Yes, I do.
Okay, cool. All right, we'll round up over here. I have a couple last questions for you, but this has been such a beautiful conversation. Thank you, Robin, for spending the time with me, and thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
your story, and thank you for sharing just this inspirational energy. It's been such a gift. So my almost last question is, what do you feel like makes you a artist?
Ooh, a hardest. I love that. What makes me a hardest is the truth in my heart coming through, is that I really believe in the power of art to help other people, to connect with other people, to heal myself too. I've used art to heal myself, but it's really through that healing that I have some gifts to offer too. And this idea of like really wanting to use my time on this planet to connect with other people in a way that is helpful.
Do you know, I forgot to ask in the beginning, but do you know your sun, moon, and rising by any chance?
I am an Aquarius and I am Pisces moon, and I don't know anything else.
Your
I'm
rising.
sorry.
Cool. Aquarius and Pisces moon. Amazing. Okay, I love asking it in the beginning actually, so that we get to see the science play out through the conversation. But I was so excited to just get to chatting with you.
Uh,
So we got it in here in the end. My last question is, if people want to work with you, if they want to contact you, how can they and where can they find you?
kissingthemuse.com. There's all kinds of ways to reach me on the website, but it's also you can email me Robbyn, Robbyn, at kissingthemuse.com. And I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook. So,
Perfect. Thank you, Robin. It's been such a pleasure having this conversation with you.
yeah, you too, Karina. Thank you. And I'm really glad you're doing this work in the world. It's really important.
Thank you. I appreciate that.